Coming up, Alec Mapa joins Illeana in just a minute.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
And now, it's the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast, starring Illeana Douglas. Eavesdrop with Illeana as she interviews Hollywood's most prominent players about filmmaking, acting, and what really happens on the set of your favorite flicks and TV shows.
Hi, everyone. It's Illeana Douglas. Welcome to the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast. I'm here with my lovely co-host, Tamara Berg.
Hey, everybody.
And we're calling this show today Chumbot, which 5 Italian people out there will maybe understand.
Oh, it's Italian. Okay.
Chumbot is something my grandmother, when you make soup and you kind of throw everything in the refrigerator.
Oh, sure.
It's called mixed up. A bunch of different things.
Is that the origin of the term chum?
Well, I've heard people say garbage soup, which sounds horrible. Like, I don't think I would want to have garbage soup, but chumbot sounds.
In our family, we call it the pantry game.
Yeah.
Like, grab everything that you can. I'm not going to the damn store.
Yes.
I'm making whatever we got. What do we have in the pantry and the fridge?
So we're going to get through a number of topics.
Yeah.
Starting, what should our first one be?
Well, let's talk about the pay
gap
discrepancy, pay gap thing.
Right.
So ITV revealed on Tuesday that its employees earn, on average, 16.4% for the males.
Yes.
Versus
more.
the female.
Yeah.
16.4% more for the
Yes.
males than the female employees.
Opening a whole can of worms here.
Yep, we're going to keep doing it.
I was thinking because, it's hard then not to want to pay retroactively.
I so agree.
That's the first thing I was thinking. It was like, oh, great, more bitterness and resentment
that
I can have because I have worked at places. I talk about this in my book when we did Grace of My Heart. Kevin Smith movie got $2 million more than we did. We were both greenlit in the same day, and Allison Anders and I were like high-fiving until we found out that his movie, which took place in one spot at a mall, got like $2 million more than ours did. And then various places that I've worked, it's tough, where your male counterpart is making more money than you, and you're doing the exact same job.
Yeah.
And they don't have kids, so that excuse is sort of flown out the window.
Well, that excuse is terrible to begin with.
But now it makes no sense.
But yeah.
Well, that used to be he has children.
He has a family to provide.
But really,
for.
it's the '80s, and we're both in the same cubicle. But okay,
Yeah.
But there's just always been this idea that, and we talked about this on Trailblazing Women, that as a society, which I find so bizarre, that people are more comfortable giving men, a few $1 million to make a movie. But in my life, it was always like my mom did she balanced the checkbook. And it was always like the woman that wrote the checks. My father spent all the money. My mom, she did all the banking and everything. So that's that. It's interesting as we go forward. What this is, what this is going to mean. But we still don't have. It's still not a law. So it's sort of based on what each company wants to. What each company wants to do.
Yeah, of course. And, this came out because, it just keeps coming out, these bits of information. But Claire Foy, for playing the Queen in The Crown, made a lot less than the guy who played Prince Philip. And she's on screen way more than he is.
Right.
But, things keep changing within companies. There was an LA Times article a couple weeks ago about how easy it is actually to find great women directors. That, you don't have to dig really hard. There are lots of them out there who are very well accomplished, and they just need to be given more work. Allison Anders, for one.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I think that's true. I think that part of it is actually changing in terms of television, and it's not becoming such a bugaboo that all these women, or they're not going to take over the world or any of that
Maybe they will.
kind of stuff. Switching topics, the other kind of funny thing I was incident I watched, which I've seen it so many times, but on Sunday I went to a friend's house to watch a film. Our pal Phil Rosenthal, and to watch On the Waterfront on the big screen, and it's so incredible as a film. Criterion did a re-release of it, and it just marks. This is 1954, and it just marks such an explosion that a lot of the the Eva Marie Saint, Carl Malden, Lee J. Cobb, Brando. They all were coming out of the Actors Studio, and that form of acting, which sort of exploded on the screen. It wasn't just that there were so many great things about the movie, but I think that what I identified this time was the idea that it looks like it's the first time you saw people that looked like you in your neighborhood, as opposed to Cary Grant or even Humphrey Bogart was, that they were really,
relatable.
The bartender looked like the bartender, and the way they shot it on location, and Eva Marie Saint looked like, even though she's stunning, but she looks like a neighborhood girl. And I think it's so fascinating that it galvanized a type of acting that really we haven't deviated, because I'm sure that people like De Niro and Pacino, were watching Brando, and then they created that style, and then the people after them, the Ryan Goslings. I feel like we haven't really, nothing more has changed from Brando. That's why I always talk about him as really the inventor of kind of they call it the method, but there really isn't any such thing, because his teacher was Stella Adler. But before I went to the movie, I was sort of getting in the mood, and I was watching Brando on YouTube and Dick Cavett, and the YouTube's always like a wormhole, and then the next thing I knew, I was watching a very strange interview with Montgomery Clift sitting in a rocking chair, and the entire interview, we think we have it bad now, but the interviewer was and I was thinking, maybe we should have rocking chairs for our guests.
Oh yeah,
lull them into a sense of security.
Yeah.
Yes, and then
I think we lull them to begin with your peanut butter.
Yes, I do.
we do.
Like dogs when we're trying to get a pill down their throat. But the interviewer had all these magazine articles, and he kept asking poor Montgomery Clift about Marlon Brando. He was like, so what do you think of this Marlon Brando? I hear stories you two don't get along. And then here's poor, Montgomery Clift, and he's saying, no, that's not true. I respect him, and I did a movie. And the guy was not, he would just keep going back, about how great Marlon Brando was. And
awesome.
Asking poor Montgomery Clift to, and he was very gracious about it. But, I thought, man, this is why people like Brando stopped, doing interviews. It was kind of brutal, but it was interesting. Then I made my second mistake, which is that I went to the party, and everybody's always, as what is society that normal people do, they talk about current events and films you've seen. And I figured, I was beginning to think that the problem with me is that I start a conversation with, I was just watching Montgomery Clift in this interview, he's sitting in a rocking chair. Where are you going? And then they leave.
And that's why we have a podcast.
So I can talk about, so I can tell my stories and feel like Jack Parr.
Speaking of Marlon Brando, there's a pretty good story about him in your book.
Yes, that's right.
If folks have not read yet, should definitely read.
Never gets tiring, most inspiring. He called me a tuning fork.
Yes,
tuning
he
fork.
Did. Wait, what?
I almost said it. Freudian. That's my big show business regret. I did not have sex with Marlon Brando.
I know.
Everybody knows it. Everyone has one big show business regret. There's a couple movies I turned down. They weren't good movies, though. They were bad movies.
They might have been good if you'd been in them.
Possibly.
You never know with that stuff.
But I have no regrets about turning down Freddie Got Fingered. Even though I appreciate Tom Green, the title alone was like, I don't think I could be in a movie like that.
Yeah.
I can't be in movies about the devil.
Yeah.
And I have said this before to Bruce Davison, who's here. I cannot be in a movie with a rat. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I got a problem with the rats.
I got an audition call for a music video for Butthole Surfers, and my agent was embarrassed to tell me what it was for.
Really?
Many years ago. Yeah, she's like, it's, pardon me for the language, but.
It's interesting. The last comment I will make before we're going to get to Alec Mapa here today, which I'm very excited about. I've known Alec for many years, and he's so funny and endearing and entertaining, and he read selections of my book, which we'll talk about. But what was I going to say? It just completely has gone out of my head now. Well, I forgot.
So I guess that's our segue.
Wait, that's not good. I wonder if I'll remember. I'm very sleepy today. It's
You
chum
are.
butt.
We are both sleepy today.
It's chum butt day. All right, let's bring on Alec, and then hopefully halfway through the show I'll remember what the heck point I was going to make, because I thought it was funny about something or other. Hello, Alec Mapa. I'm chum butt today, as I'm telling everyone. Chum butt. That's Italian. It just means all mixed up and everything in the pot.
The Yiddish say fatutzt.
Fatutzt.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good word.
I like that one. I'm all fatutzt.
I'm gonna say. I want to read your intro. Oh, look at that lovely headshot.
Oh yeah, like from 20 years ago.
That's good. That's what you, like Joanne Worley. You
I
just
know.
need Let me do your credits. Alex Mapa, best known for the roles, well, of course, Ugly Betty, but Marley and Me, Don't Mess with the Zohan, the television roles, Ugly Betty, Switched at Birth, Half and Half, Devious Maids, Blackish. Please welcome, of course, all your reality stuff and comedy stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being
Are
here.
we on the air right now?
We're on the air right now.
I've just been sitting here like, your producers are very nice. One offered me a bottle of rosé.
Nice.
He said,
Wow.
he goes, I said, you want anything? I said, a bottle of rosé. He goes, we could make that happen. I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't.
Oh yeah, we're very accommodating here.
Yeah.
Good.
Wow.
What the tea and the peanut butter were. And I was asking you too, before I ask my favorite first question, you do some cooking.
I do cook. I did.
Yeah.
I didn't cook before I had a kid, but all of a sudden I was like, I want to know what's in this. What my
Right.
kid's eating. So
Did you have any like when you had you adopted a 5-year-old?
Yes.
So did you have any like holy shit? He's got to eat.
It was
now. What do
all
we-
holy shit. I mean, it was like just holy. It's been holy shit ever since. Like, because like kids are horrible. You figure one thing out and that's fixed, and like, oh, we're done with that, and then
Something
it's
else.
like the Hydra. You cut off one head and 7 more pop up. It's like problems replace problems. Kids outgrow one thing and there's like a whole new set.
That's right.
Yeah, and so now my son is 13, so he's
Yeah.
a dick.
Oh, is that his thing?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, he's the mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that
it's
5th grade?
It's 7th grade.
Cynical?
That's when
Oh,
they start
7th
to
grade.
push away from you. You're like the Wizard of Oz. The curtain gets pulled back, and they're
Right.
like, "You? It's been you this whole time? I've been mystified by you, this fraud." Yeah. It's awful.
I love that. Okay, we're gonna get more to that.
I
'cause
like
I'm
this
fascinated.
thing, this illustration of you. That should be on merch.
Oh, it should
It
be?
should
Yeah,
be.
it
You're
should
right.
be on a mug,
Yeah.
a T-shirt.
You like it?
Yeah,
You, like,
bumper
my
sticker.
my theory about show business. You
Yeah.
need sad eyes.
Sad eyes.
Yeah, sad eyes.
I have a sad heart. Does that help?
No, you have sad eyes.
Yeah, I do have sad eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who don't have sad eyes don't. It doesn't. I don't know why. I just have a weird.
I'm on
theory about
Lexapro
that.
now, which is for anxiety.
And what is
It's an anti-anxiety medication because I get into
Really?
the loop.
Okay.
And what it does is the
Yeah.
serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It kind
Right.
of like gets you out of the loop. So
Okay.
I still experience all my feelings. I don't get stuck in them. I don't get
Interesting.
mired
Uh-huh.
in them. So I still feel things.
Yeah.
And then on the days where I forget to take it, it's
Right.
like I'm
Wow. So you
that
really
I feel
notice.
everything super intensely. Yeah.
But
Oh, I brought it up because I said to, I asked my therapist, do I need to be treated for depression? And he goes, you're not depressed. I treat depressed people. but I see that
who
you're.
the fuck are you?
I see that you're exhausted. I see exhaustion, and I see anxiety. And I was like, thanks. This has been a very helpful session.
That's what happens with a 13-year-old, I'd
Interesting.
imagine.
Yeah.
Exhaustion and
Yeah. Do you have
anxiety.
kids?
No.
Oh, so smart. So smart.
Have you thought about having another
No,
child?
never. Ever
One
again.
is perfect.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. This is enough. This is all the adventure I need. Yeah.
Okay, let's get to my favorite question.
Your
I've never asked you
question.
this.
Okay.
Do you remember the first movie you saw and who took you to see it?
Of course.
Grew up in San Francisco.
I grew up in San
right?
Francisco, so
Beautiful city.
beautiful
Love it.
city, damp but lovely.
Damp
damp
indeed.
and lovely,
Cold,
just scenic and cold and
Yeah, but beautiful.
Yes, and beautiful and romantic. We lived in San Francisco, and the kiddie movie place was on Terraville Street. It was called The Fox, and this was in the 70s before they cut up theaters.
Yeah.
Late 60s, early 70s.
We're the same age.
You know, they had the Alexandria Theater and the Coronet Theater where you could see Star Wars, and there were loge seats for $6 that rocked back and forth. So my grandmother, my Lala, took me to see Dumbo at the Fox Theater, and that was my very first movie.
And were you close to your?
I was very close to my grandma. Yeah,
Yeah.
both my parents worked, so I was basically raised by my grandma.
I spent a lot of time too with the first movie I saw was with my dad's grandfather, and then my grandparents lived in Queens, and we lived at the movies.
Yeah.
I remember once. I saw, which I said this once before. My grandmother took me to see Foul Play, and I mean, I think I cried.
I love that movie.
I think I thought it was the greatest. And she did it. We
Yeah.
stayed and watched it again.
You did? With Goldie Hawn and
Chevy
Chevy
Chase.
Chase. He's so sexy.
That
and
was
he-
like my idea of a perfect movie.
Yeah.
you know,
And the British
Dudley
actor,
Moore.
Dudley Moore.
Yeah.
It's the first thing I ever saw Dudley Moore
too,
in.
me too.
And they had that scary albino character.
Yes.
And yeah. My movie that I was strangely fascinated with as a child, and I couldn't wait to see it over and over again, was The Poseidon Adventure.
Great film.
I grew up during kind of like the era of fantastic disaster movies.
Yes, Towering Inferno.
Towering Inferno and Earthquake. and just like
Swarm.
Irwin Allen, just people running and screaming and crying. It was just so great. And you watch those movies now, and it's kind of like, okay. It was a little more frightening as a kid, and now it just seems like, it seems the special effects are pre-CGI, so they're...
I think they're a little better. And did it bother you? Who did you identify with in the film? Was there any...
In the Poseidon Adventure?
Yeah, like...
Probably
don't
Pamela
say-
Sue Martin. Because she had that little hot pants. Remember the little red hot pants
Yes!
underneath her
Yes.
dress and everything? I thought she was really, really cool. And I remember her little brother in the movie said, "Shove it." And I remember my brothers and sisters feeling very scandalized by that was really bad language.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the cross section of of those. You're right, of the disaster movies.
Yeah. And it was always about cramming as many celebrities into the movie as humanly
best.
possible.
The best.
And you remember the poster for the movies would have the little portraits of
Yeah,
each,
the little-
Gloria Swanson and Airport 75, What must she been have what was she thinking? Like, it's 1975, I'm still in the movies. I'm
Probably.
Gloria Swanson in Airport.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, this is it. This is going to make me.
Well, once on television, because I missed it, I actually saw the original. I saw Airport 2 at the theater. The first one I was too young, but like not long ago, maybe
Right.
10 years ago, for the first time I actually saw the original
Airport.
with Dean Martin.
Yeah, and Helen Hayes.
Which is pretty good,
Yeah, it's not bad.
actually.
Yeah.
It's a little more,
Yeah.
I mean, it's got some cheese ball. Did you
Yeah,
ever
but it's not like the ultimate celebrities in peril,
No.
kind of like, yeah.
What about, did you ever see, to give you a bad one, remember Roller Coaster?
Roller Coaster, yeah, in Sense-Around. This is the whole plot. There was a terrorist who was targeting amusement parks. and bombing roller coasters.
I vaguely remember
And
that
it was
one.
the second film presented in the technology that was sense-around.
Yes.
Which was just, they would just put on the bass of the movie theater really, really loud, so
Yeah.
it seemed like the seats were vibrating. So they had it for earthquake and they had it for roller coaster.
Yeah,
Which I also saw in San
that was
Francisco.
when they were really. But I think it was George Siegel.
Was it?
I'm gonna take a wild guess.
The opening of roller coaster is still pretty frightening.
Yeah.
It's a bomb goes off at like I think at the Coney Island cyclone or something like that, and it's pretty gory. Like it's like people get decapitated and stuff.
Yeah, they had no problem, like blowing up children. In those early
And like
films.
really like a lot of gory stuff in the 70s. I remember one with do you ever see The Fury with Amy Irving and Andrew Stevens where they both had telekinetic powers?
Of course,
They were
that's
being recruited by the CIA with
that's
John Cassavetes and
Brian De Palma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
I did too, and I
Yeah.
didn't know that. It's like when did you start to get an awareness that somebody makes films? Like you like a movie, and then you put it together. Oh, Carrie, The Fury.
I think around the late 70s,
Yeah.
Carrie, The Fury, because Brian De Palma had Carrie, Fury, and then Dressed to Kill, like three in a row. And then I kind of knew that if you went to a Brian De Palma film, you were you were in for some excitement.
I grew up in the drive-in era, so we would see a lot of movies at the drive-in.
Our dad would hide us in the back under a blanket so we wouldn't have to pay for all the
Why
kids.
did everybody do that?
Yeah.
It was only $1.
I know, because they're cheap.
Us too.
Yeah.
The effort that
Yeah.
we went
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
save
Because then you could buy a soda.
You could buy
Yeah.
soda pop, but I don't think the sound in those movies was ever good. Was it ever good?
We saw I remember seeing Serpico in the rain.
Yeah,
and like
it was
we
a
weren't gonna
gigantic,
leave.
unyieldy speaker.
big.
It was about the size of your head, and you had to hang it on your window, and it was in the car. Yeah.
But that was the hub of my whole social life. Growing
drive-in.
up, was the drive-in, and I mean, because we grew up in a small town,
Right,
so like
right.
in order to have any social life away from your parents, everything
You had to go to the drive-in.
had to go to the drive-in. But I was so unpopular, like nobody thought I was good looking, so I would just actually watch the movie.
Well, you sure showed them, didn't you, Illeana
Well,
Douglas?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. Like I was saying at the top of the thing, I said when you start every conversation with, I was watching an old interview with Montgomery Clift. It's like people are like,
And it's 1972.
Excuse me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they leave.
Right.
I don't have a lot in common. With
But
them.
I had a weird relationship with the movies because my father grew up in the Philippines, and then the Japanese invaded the Philippines, and so they used to get American culture right away. So for all of the war, they were stuck in Depression era movies because no new movies could come in.
Right.
So my father, as a kid, watched the same movies over and over again. Errol Flynn, Ginger Rogers, anything of the 30s. So when I grew up, before the advent of VCRs and on demand, we would have to go to revival houses in San Francisco and watch these old movies and everything. So I grew up watching all of that stuff.
But that's probably fun. That's probably what informed, to get to see them on, the big screen.
And also kind of like, I didn't really get the kind of political context of things as a kid. I just
Right.
thought, oh, it's Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, and it's a romantic comedy, and they hate
Yeah.
each other at first, and then they dance, and they fall in love. But like, looking back at it now, I'm fascinated by the idea that everybody in America was starving to death. They had no money, and they want to go to the movies to watch rich people sing and dance.
Yeah. Well,
Like they wanted to go to movies. The escape was, we're broke. It's like that movie with Mia Farrow where she walks into the picture and I forget the name. I'm having a total brain fart.
which one?
Mia Farrow, and she's working as a waitress in a restaurant. And she's married to Danny Aiello, and Purple Rose of Cairo.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Well, I was fascinated by the idea of somebody like Shirley Temple. She was always an orphan.
She was always
Her
an orphan.
parents were always like killed.
Killed.
Like within the first 15 minutes, it's like
She's the widowmaker.
Who's going to tell little Shirley that her mom has been run over?
And a really that was a movie where her mom was bringing her a birthday cake in one of the movies, and she gets hit by a car, like at Sunset Gower or something, crossing the street.
And like, so when you're a kid, that part, you think it's fun. You're like, some rich family is going to adopt me.
Right,
But when
right.
you watch it as a grown-up, you're like...
Part a little traumatized, but she can still sing and dance, which is the
That's
most
true.
important thing.
Now, when did the singing and dancing come into play? Did you have, did you entertain your parents? Did you think
Yeah,
they
probably
were
a
funny?
little too
or-
much. Yeah. Yeah.
My parents didn't think I was funny at all.
My father's very funny. My father's very funny. But, you know, I was like Paul Lynde funny. I was like Waylon Flowers and Madam funny. I mean, at
So
10.
were you watching Match Game? And,
Oh my God, yeah. I
was
thought
like-
that was like,
Me too.
that
That's-
was the epitome of stardom. I thought,
too,
I
me
will
too.
have made it if I'm ever on the $20,000 pyramid.
I know.
You know?
Yep.
And I would watch Rita Moreno on the $20,000 pyramid and just like, she was so good. And
Yeah.
never once thinking, she won an Oscar and she's on the $20,000 pyramid.
Oh no, I thought Match Game was like again, like to
Yeah.
be friends with Charles Nelson Riley.
And apparently they were all loaded during the making of that show. They were all like
Isn't
drunk.
that funny
Yeah.
that as kids, like, because I remember running home from school and wanting to watch Match Game
Yeah.
and then Tattletales.
Yeah.
Right afterwards.
Match Game and Tattletales.
And I think they all were.
Yeah.
I had a crush on Bobby Van.
Bobby Van, that's a good one.
He was a former, and again, like it took me years to like. Oh, he actually had a career. He was a song and dance man.
You didn't know that?
He wasn't just like
You didn't
on
know
a
that?
game show,
Yeah.
you know, with Bert Convy.
I didn't know Elkie Summers had ever been in a movie. I only ever saw her in game shows.
I know
Yeah.
all those John
Yeah.
Davidson.
Charlie Weaver.
Oh, God.
what was that about?
Hollywood Squares.
Hollywood Squares.
Oh, yeah.
Obsessed.
That was special because as the people of the podcast know, we only got one channel growing up. This is my famous horrifying childhood. We only got
No
channel
remote
2.
necessary. Just one channel.
We only get channel 2.
Yeah?
So I am prolific in my TV if it's on CBS. Anything else I had to I'd watch at a friend's house.
What? You didn't have the technology to get the two other
We
channels?
were very
there were only
poor.
3.
We were poor, and my mom would not buy an antenna because we couldn't afford it.
Okay.
And so finally, she bought the antenna, but she wouldn't buy the rotor. And so we had to. You had to climb on top of the roof.
Did you miss the advent of the great TV movies of the 70s?
This is in my.
I mean, just like-
this is. I had to fake my way, like at school when people
Yeah.
were talking about the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, there
and
were
the
only
Partridge
3
Family.
channels, so
Yeah.
ABC always had like some groundbreaking TV movie of the week, like
Dawn,
Leaf Plum,
Portrait of a Teenage Alcoholic.
Yeah, Portrait of a Teenage Runaway, and then Linda Blair had a trilogy of movies. There was
know. Yeah.
Sarah T, Portrait of a Teenage Alcoholic,
Yes.
Yeah.
Born Innocent, where she was kidnapped by Martin Sheen,
Yeah.
and then there was one more, I forget what, Sweet Hostage or something like that.
Yeah.
And then John Travolta in Boy in the
Plastic
Plastic
Bubble.
Bubble.
Yep.
And then there was one with Linda Blair and Sean Cassidy where they played mentally retarded lovers.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I sort of.
Yeah.
I sort of.
And-
Yes.
Yeah. And it was called.
I'm gonna marry her dad.
Yeah, I'm gonna marry her dad. And then, but there was always like a TV movie of the week after that where television actors, in order to show their stuff, would play a
Yeah.
mentally disabled person and everything. Kind of like that was the stretch.
Ah,
That
the
was
good
like,
old days.
yeah.
That's when I'd have to go to like a friend's house for a sleepover.
Like other people, like normal people.
Yeah.
That's what the name of the movie.
Okay, there
Like
you go.
Normal
Oh yeah,
People.
yeah.
You got
Farrah Fawcett, Burning Bed.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah, that was a good
so
one.
that was a really good one. Did you ever do? You did a lot of TV movies.
I did not.
You didn't?
I just feel like I did. I
Yeah?
only did one. I did. It was called Bella Mafia, but
Yes.
it made up for.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Tilly and I.
TV movies need to come back.
No, they
I
were
love
fun.
those. Rich Man, Poor Man. Did you watch that miniseries?
ABC.
Oh, so,
Here we
so
go
sorry.
again.
I'm so
Roots.
sorry.
I missed it. It's
You missed it.
ABC. It was very, very
Yeah.
hard. And then
But you had a grandparent who was a movie star, so
Yeah,
that makes
that's
up for I
true.
didn't have a grandparent who was a movie star.
he would take me to see musicals, which was insane. You know, my first musical was Chorus Line.
Yeah?
So that's all. When I would go visit him, that's all I wanted to do.
How
was-
old were you when you saw that?
When I saw Chorus
Chorus Line,
Line?
yeah.
I'm not good with ages,
Yeah.
but you know, young.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was young when I saw that, and I was kind of shocked that my parents took me.
It was
so queer.
My grandfather would take me. I asked him like what I wanted for Christmas, and I wanted a subscription to New York Magazine. It was out of my mind, and so I would have it, and I'd circle it. You know, we had no money, like we were living in this commune.
I had
that's all I cared about.
I had a lesbian aunt who had very provocative reading material in her room that I would pilfer through when she wasn't home, and she had this subscription. It was kind of like a queer subscription that didn't say it was queer because it was like
I love it.
1976, 77.
Yeah.
It was called After Dark Magazine, and it was all about New York nightlife and Studio 54.
Oh.
And there would be a pictorial editorial in the middle of like some Broadway chorus boy or something with his
Yeah.
bio and stuff. It was very provocative.
I had a cousin who worked
Yeah.
at Fiorucci, which again, this was the department store.
Yeah,
I mean,
right around from Bloomingdale's.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I never went in it, but just I knew about it
Yeah.
from New York Magazine. And again, that was the epitome of cool.
Yeah,
And she was like razor thin and
right. My
did a lot
window
of-
into New York at that time was After Dark magazine. I used to like think, oh, this is what it must be like. So,
did you-
shocking.
So were you like me? Like, did you have that dream? Like, I mean, to me, it was like, there's a picture I did on Instagram where I'm holding my New York magazine. I look like a hostage, like I'm being hostage. Proof of survival. Help! Like, all I cared about was like one day.
Yeah.
So I talk about when I saw Chorus Line and I had to get back on the bus and go back to Connecticut. I just didn't.
Devastating.
No, when I saw that musical, I was like, "This is where I belong. I belong in New York. I'm a misfit."
I saw Fame at Cinerama Dome.
Oh.
And I was like,
that was
New
another-
York.
Yeah.
That's when my New York fantasy began. And I went as soon as I could, 18.
Me too. And where was you? Do you remember like where your first apartment was?
Sure. Oh my God, horrible. I lived on Van Dam Street in Soho before Soho was Soho.
Yeah.
And me and 3 other kids from NYU all pooled our money and
Yeah.
paid the rent and slept out on this big loft floor. And then we came home one day and the cops were there. And they were like, you got to get out of here. And we're like, why? Because this apartment has been illegally sublet. Our landlord was a cokehead who was living in the utility closet across the hall. He'd like snorted all his money and was using us to pay the rent. So that was my big welcome
I
to New
love
York.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
That happened to me once in an apartment where we sublet it for a guy, from a guy, and the guy's father showed up, and it was like, "Oh, you're not Dan's father." He's like, "Who's Dan?" He had sublet it to someone else.
Right.
And we had to like. He's like, "Well, you need to get out of here in an hour."
Yeah.
And like we
Yeah,
like, had to
it was
just-
fishy. It was really fishy.
I
Like
know.
we'd come home and there'd be food eaten, and
Not
it
good.
was It was a.
But you were living the dream.
I was living the dream. It's kind of you have to be 18 years old to kind of like not care about that kind of thing.
Right.
You know?
I hate that I say this because I feel like I'm an old person,
All
but
right.
I feel as if New York does not have that same fun vibe as it
yeah.
did in '83
I
when
don't
we were
think
there.
the model of going to New York as a young artist and living in a cheap apartment and kind of honing your craft exists anymore. I
I
think
know.
it's too expensive. It's too
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was crazy fun.
Crazy fun, Danceteria, the Cat Club. I worked
Yeah.
at Boy Bar on St. Mark's Place. I mean, it was just kind of like, just big time showbiz, you know, just kind of so exciting just to be in New York. And it was dangerous and
Oh, yeah.
dirty and really exciting. And
yet scraping on the sidelines. Well, my first job was for Steve Rebell there when they got out of prison.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they were turning this, it was called the Hotel Executive. And one of our good-looking friends got in, and then he got, as what jobs went in those days.
Right.
If one person got in.
Right.
It's like the Marx Brothers.
Uh-huh.
They'd bring in all their friends.
Yeah.
And we would do a variety of things for Steve Rebell. But it also included, like, I need you to pick up Joan Collins from
this
the
is
airport.
post-prison Steve
Yes.
Rebell. Yeah.
You know, or, Norma Kamali needs her apartment repainted. And so, like, we were thrilled, to do all this stuff. And then he'd pay us in, like, a Quaalude for,
Thank you.
You guys were really, here, take it.
Wow.
He actually gave us Quaaludes.
Do those even exist anymore?
No.
Because I
And
remember enjoying those a great deal.
You see, we took him once, and I do at least have a photo to. We stayed. We were so scared. We got like a room, and he was really nice though. He knew we all wanted to be actors and everything.
And take Quaaludes.
And after, yeah.
Everybody loves Quaaludes. It's part of the craft. You want to be an actor?
I talk about like that.
Yeah.
I sound like my grandmother
Narcotics.
when she would talk about the mob guys.
Right.
Oh, they weren't so bad.
They weren't
so bad. They'd give you a quarter, make like that's how I feel like about Steve Rebell. He wasn't so bad. He gave us
wasn't so
Quaaludes
bad.
and help every once in a while. Like if we were doing a short movie or something, he goes, "Yeah, you can use the car," and then He'd let us use his car.
Wow.
Right, but then the payback was like sometimes, like I said,
Yeah.
you get a call, I need you to move Norma Kamali out of her,
All right. God, what just weird, coked up people needing favors. Like, I need a kid to like paint my apartment and move my car. Steve,
Yeah.
take care of this.
Because in the trade of celebrity, you needed people that were trustworthy.
Sure.
So, like, again, I had, like, one of my jobs was, like, I won't mention the person, but, like, bringing one girlfriend down and bringing the other one up, so that they didn't run into each other.
Oh.
And the hotel, Rick James stayed at our hotel, which was
Right.
another insane.
I bet.
Oh, my.
Yeah. He literally, because Steve would let people, celebrities,
Yeah.
would stay for free. Meanwhile, someone from Kansas would have the Studio 54 special weekend, and they'd like pay through the nose.
Wow.
So it was, but it was fun. It was exciting. It was.
I was at a party at a club in Chelsea, and we walked into a room, and it was one of those themed clubs where they would change it every 6 weeks. Walked into one room, and there was just a bedroom with a canopy bed in it, and I was there with my sister, and we walked in, and it was Rick James just in the bed, just waiting for somebody. And we're like, okay, I'm gonna go back downstairs. And there was an air of foreboding in the air.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's we used to call Steve, and we'd be like, he's in the lobby again. In his bathrobe, and it's undone.
Yeah. Yeah, just shocking environments, like just kind of like
Totally normal.
oh my God. Did you ever go to the Saint? It was that big, huge gay club in the East Village that had a planetarium in the middle.
It sounds very
And
familiar.
just people just having sex everywhere in every dark crevice. And
I used to hear
Yeah.
about things. I remember this was the era where many friends and roommates who were straight, but you knew they were gay, then were bi,
okay,
and then you're like, okay, and now they're gay.
Yeah,
There was a
yeah.
lot of times like people were when I was in acting school originally, there was a lot of like closeted people. It was
Sure.
to be, it's like it's again,
It's not like the kids today.
no, it's so interesting.
No.
Everyone has the,
They're all
it's
fluid.
the openness,
Yes.
but we were there. I was witness to a lot of experimentation.
Yeah, we needed Quaaludes to feel open. That's it. That was the social lubricant we needed back then. It was like,
But it was kind of fun. Like,
Yeah.
where it was like, oh, he's gay. He's with Bjorn in the other room. What's happening? He's coming out. I had a guy come out in my apartment. It happened. He came. Yeah.
to you?
No. He brought a guy home,
Oh.
and then my roommate who was in the closet at the time. This is like way too much information.
Right.
But he was in the closet, and I kind of knew he was gay, but he wasn't
Yeah.
ready to see it.
Aw.
But we were roommates, and we let the other guy stay with us because he needed a place to stay. And then I had another guy that was openly gay, Swedish guy named Bjorn, and we were like hidden in the bathroom while the other guy was like, okay, I guess he's coming out. I guess it's happening tonight. And we were like in the bathroom, and we were like, what are we gonna do? It's a one-room apartment. Like we have nowhere to go. And so we stayed in the bathroom till we.
And that's like a social situation you wouldn't tolerate as an adult now. It would just be like, that's like kid drama. That's kid stuff.
Is it? But it was like, well, those are the kind of things that happen. It was like, kind of going with the moment. You just sort of look the other way.
Right.
So let's talk about now. Was musicals your first? Did you get involved with musicals?
No,
or
I
theater
did
or
plays. I did
comedy?
theater. I did theater all the time. I did plays in San Francisco. I interned. It was like the heyday of the late 70s, kind of Sam Shepard, the Magic Theater.
Yeah.
There was a lot of experimental theater in San Francisco. ACT, American Conservatory Theater.
Right.
There was there was like a lot of really good actors in San Francisco and people who just wanted to do plays.
Yeah.
And so I interned at a place called the One Act Theater Company, and I did plays. I finally moved up to the company, and then I did plays all through high school in and around San Francisco, and then I auditioned for NYU and got in.
Wow.
And I went to NYU for 4 years, and while I was there, I wasn't getting cast in anything, and that's when I started doing stand-up at like all the gay bars and stuff, and Hell's Kitchen and everything, and it was kind of everything was just really homemade and unpolished and experimental, and I felt
Yeah.
like I was young enough to not be afraid to
Yes.
try things and just kind of,
It's
bomb.
That's true. We have a kind of a similar thing because I started doing stand-up too, not because I was good at it,
Right.
but it's same thing.
To
Like
perform.
I just couldn't get acting roles,
Right.
and then I saw this thing like a contest, and you win $50. I was like, how hard could it be? Like to come up with 5 minutes of material,
Right.
you know? But the whole stand-up world was just not for me.
Yeah, yeah. We used to see, but people starting out, like, I remember we performed with Mario Cantone in the West Village at this place called the Paper Moon, and there was an open mic night that was hosted by Colin Quinn, who I always had a big crush on, and his whole act was he would bomb. Every single night, he would just bomb. But then after a while, that became the act.
Right.
Because he would like editorialize after people didn't get something, and that became the act of like, I'm terrible, but it was so funny. Yeah.
And how did you get involved with? Did you audition for M Butterfly? Then?
Yeah,
That's like
my
a
agent
huge-
set me up for that, and I was like,
Wow.
this is never going to go anywhere. It was about a French diplomat who has a 20-year love affair with a Chinese opera star, and
Yeah.
after 20 years, he discovers that his lover's a man. I mean, I remember reading the script and thinking, I'm from San Francisco. This kind of thing happens on the bus. This is like not going to go anywhere, and it became this huge thing.
Yes.
But that was my very first job. I was the understudy. I understudied B.D. Wong, who won a Tony. And then I did the play on Broadway for a year, and then I toured with it and came out here.
Now I saw the play with John Lithgow.
Yeah.
Did he originate the role?
Yeah.
John Lithgow.
Oh, he's
and
just
B.D. Wong.
amazing.
It was incredible.
Yeah. John Lithgow was just the most generous, lovely, lovely person. You've met him, probably.
You know, socially,
Yeah.
but not the. I went to see the play twice.
Yeah.
Because again, when we were in acting school, sometimes you could
Sure.
snag.
I saw the second act of everything.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah.
Me too.
I found a really good way. When they would ask for a ticket, I'd have a notebook in my hand. I said, I'm taking notes for the director. If you need this seat, just let me know. And they'd be like, oh, okay.
That's a good.
Yeah.
You know,
Little tip.
Great scam.
Yeah.
one of my roommates who was here, Stephen Rogers, who wrote I, Tanya, we used to like put on tuxedos and like we were insane.
Yeah.
We'd walk into the plaza and just like go to different weddings and make up stories.
I crashed the opening night party for Jerome Robbins' Broadway.
Yeah.
And we saw every single movie star going into the ballroom,
Yes.
Lauren Bacall and Barbara Walters and Harry
Yes.
Reisner and whatever. It
Yeah.
was like, I guess it's like 1987 or 1988. And my sister and I were standing outside like Stella Dallas kind of watching. And so
Yeah.
we walked to the second floor of the ballroom because there were doors, and we
Yeah.
just opened a door, and all of a sudden we were in the party. And I was like, let's go.
Yeah, it was so much easier in
Yeah,
those days.
yeah.
It's funny. I saw that show a lot because I knew I had dated Jerome Robbins' assistant. And it was funny because he said that Jerome Robbins made him clip coupons. That always stuck.
What?
I don't know. He made him clip coupons for
Who
him.
knew Jerome Robbins was so thrifty?
Was so thrifty
Yeah.
that he's so. That was a great show.
All the boys in that show were about 20, 22 years old tops. Like there were even some 18-year-old boys. And I used to run with that crowd after I'd do my show.
Right.
We would all meet each other at Sam's and have dinner, and then we'd hit some club.
Wow.
This is like we're doing 8 shows a week
wow.
on Broadway, but I'm
Yeah.
like 23 years old.
It's
But
incredible.
I could never do that now. I'm in bed by 10,
Yeah.
It's like... like if I had to do that schedule now, it would be like, bye, good night.
I know. I
see
used to
you.
get up in the morning. I don't know how I would walk from I'd walk across the park to go to the neighborhood playhouse because we didn't have any money. So it was
Right.
like literally just walk.
Just walk
Like
everywhere.
with my Walkman.
Yeah. What's a
listening-
city you can do that in? It was
Yeah.
just like so exciting and just kind of, I have a lot of really romantic memories of that. And I'm sure it wasn't as nice. I guess it was a really hard life, but it
God.
was like, there was a sense of possibility and a sense of immortality, I guess. You didn't
Yeah.
really have a sense of like, you could get hurt or you could throw your back out or,
Yeah.
anything like that.
No, I loved it. And then you went around. Did you tour with Lithgow or did somebody?
No, I
else?
toured with an actor named Philip Anglem, who was the original Elephant Man on Broadway.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was very, very beautiful.
Uh-huh.
And we had a very intense showmance for a year.
Really?
Yeah. I had like my own French Lieutenant's Woman experience happening where we were playing lovers on stage and we were lovers off stage.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that sounds like a movie.
Yeah, a really
'cause that's
fucked up movie.
That is an intense
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
With
That's really-
nudity.
yeah, with nudity. I was naked a lot. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you didn't have any. I mean, I
Didn't
remember
care.
the first time when I saw B.D. Wong, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that was the first time I saw nudity in the
Really? There was
theater?
a lot of naked people in theater
in the theater.
New
I mean,
York.
outside of acting class,
Right,
things
right,
like that. But
right.
on Broadway,
Were you ever naked in anything?
in movies,
Yeah.
yeah.
How much did you show?
Well, just is the thing is you're naked, but
Yeah.
it's what the camera sees and what the
Right.
crew sees everything.
Did you show boobies?
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah. But it doesn't. I'm trying to. The reason I'm hesitating is on the crew. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it in the film? No.
No. Huh.
So at the end, you're like, well, what the heck did I do that
Right.
for?
What was that for?
Like
Right.
6 when I had to do 6 feet under when they wanted me to come back.
Right.
They wanted full on nudity.
Wow.
Full on nudity. Me and Freddie Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And it was tough.
Oh, he's so cute.
He
I always
is.
had a
He's
little crush on him.
adorable.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was like, the thing is, again, you have this idea, you're not alone. There's a bunch of
you're not
people
alone.
watching
Yeah.
you, and it's
Yeah.
not,
You know what? I understudied that show, and being an understudy for a lead in a Broadway show, somebody described it to me later on. It's like you're an animal in the middle of the woods, and you're in a cage.
Yeah.
You're watching all the other animals kind of behave and frolic, and so
Yeah.
when they let out that cage, I would have done anything. I was like naked. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's true. And
Yeah.
a certain adrenaline probably
Sure.
hits you that
And it was
you don't.
showbiz. It was Broadway. I mean, it was my dream come true. I mean,
Yeah.
Did you do plays? A great
I
deal?
did
Yeah.
a lot. I started out doing a lot of plays and comedy and things like that, and then just went straight into movies.
Right. Right.
As soon as I got a first movie gig.
That amazes me that you could kind of because movies still mystify me. Like I'm not intimidated by acting in television or acting in front of a live audience, but the minute it has the heading of a movie, I become very self-conscious.
See, that's interesting
Yeah.
because I like movies, and I always thought I would like TV more. But some of the rigmarole of TV,
Right.
I felt like there was a lot of authority in TV.
There
like,
is because you're playing beat the clock.
You know,
You gotta film those 5 pages a day, no matter what, or 10 pages and get through it, no matter what. There's not the kind of leisurely time of like we can
Right.
try this a whole bunch of different ways.
I remember being such a fan of Ugly Betty, and then being on Ugly Betty was like so hard. I mean, it was like 16, 17-hour days.
Yeah.
And like just doing something again and again
Yeah,
and again.
I'm
and
good at
again.
that though.
You are?
Yeah, I'm good at that. I have my crossword puzzle. I keep myself entertained. I know when to rest. I feel like also the size of the screen kind of allows me to overact
Yeah.
a little bit. And film is just so telling. It's so like, which is why I love watching a really good performance of something. Kind of like, because Gosford Park was on the other day,
Oh,
which has like a million amazing tiny little performances in it
Right.
that are amazing. Like Helen Mirren will just look at Clive Owen in a way that's very telling and knowing, and I'll just rewind that moment back and back again, and
You were in a movie, Bright Lights, Big City.
I was horrible in it. Perfect example.
Were you
horrible?
Did you work with the first director?
Yeah, Joyce Chopra, who was fired.
Yes. No, the reason I know this
Yeah.
is because it's so funny our paths have
Yeah.
crossed. I worked for a publicist named Peggy Siegel.
Yes.
And the Bright Lights Big City was our film. I actually wrote the press kit for that film.
Yes. I played
And-
Yasu Wade, fact checker. This was when Michael J. Fox was a movie star.
Yeah, this was a big deal, but it was a problematic film.
Yes.
Did any of those problems, and I went to the set a couple times, it was dire.
I was willfully ignorant. Joyce was directing. She didn't seem all that confident.
Yeah.
We took a break for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we all came back, and half the cast was fired.
Yeah.
Megan Mullally was fired. Shirley Knight was fired, and replaced with a whole bunch of different actors. Like Tracy Pollan, Swoosie Kurtz.
came in.
Swoosie Kurtz came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was so charmed by her. I just thought she was so interesting and fun. And I was like, what are you doing after this? She goes, I'm never working again.
Really?
And I said, really? She goes, I say that because that's what it always feels like.
That was the first.
Never working again.
That was the first time I ever wrote a press kit, and I remember like being on the phone with Swizzy Kurt. She lived next door to Bob Hope, and like I had in the press kit, like I remember
Swizzy Kurt's neighbor of Bob
Yeah,
Hope.
my boss was like, "Nobody gives a shit about this. What is this?"
It's a little factoid.
I was like, I thought it was kind of okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Didn't she live on Park Avenue or something like that? She had like some fancy address.
I think she did.
Yeah.
I think they all did.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Did you learn anything from that film? Michael J. Fox just did not seem to be, and I love Michael J. Fox.
He was a delightful human being. He
Yes.
was really, and in 1987, he was a movie star.
Huge.
And he would play things whether or not they was right for him.
Right.
So he had one movie where he played a Vietnam veteran who was
Yes.
casualties of war, and it
Yeah.
was like, well, okay, Michael Fox is, and then this one was Bright Lights, Big City was the book.
Yeah.
It was about that time in New York City, and he was going to embody this big cokehead, whether or not he could actually play it.
I know.
Yeah.
It was.
I just remember being at the premiere and seeing how awful I was, and I tuned out the rest of it. I was just so traumatized.
And
I
what
was
did you
just
think
like,
you were?
ugh.
Why did you think you were awful?
I looked at the camera at one point.
What?
I think I actually looked over at the camera into the lens. I don't know how that made it into the edit. I was just kind of like, I didn't make any choices.
Yeah.
I didn't make any deliberate choices. I kind of was like, I wasn't.
Did you think just being funny would be enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you kind of see this kind of like groundless performance. Kind of, it's not rooted in anything real. It's not
Right.
kind of, it's a big blot.
I think that's what the beginning is like. My first.
But you learn through failure. You learn through failure. You're kind
Totally.
of like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm
Yeah.
not talented enough to wing it. You have to be prepared.
Yeah. Well, it takes a way, it takes a while, and you got to
Yeah.
learn where the camera is.
Oh,
And
yeah.
all,
No, I didn't know any of that stuff.
Yeah, you start to learn, and once you know lenses,
Right.
I always think, when I did To Die For, and I was like, oh, lenses, this
Right.
is fascinating.
Yeah.
That was a game changer for
Oh,
me.
yeah. For me, it was picking an eye. If
Oh,
we had a
right, to look
face
at.
to face.
Yeah.
Because if you don't pick an eye, and on a movie, you just
Right.
look like Cookie Monster. Your eyes are like
shifty.
going,
Yeah.
your eyes are going back and forth.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're right, or looking at their forehead, or
Right.
things like that. Those are all
Ridiculous.
those Michael Caine.
Right.
Those are all those crazy.
Oh yeah, that was his acting class. Acting tips, Michael Caine. But he was like, he's the master of all that stuff.
I
The technical
know.
stuff. His tip was never take a nap when you're on a movie set. Don't nap.
Yeah.
Because when you come out, you're going to look tired.
Well, or you just see. I always have to stay in character. Like I can't. That's
You're
why.
that actress. You're Daniel Day-Lewis.
Well, that's like when we did Ugly Betty. It's like you come in and it's like, we're ready for you. It's like, it's midnight and we're doing an office
And
scene.
you've been in character this entire time?
Yeah, like they,
Oh, lady.
because what are you supposed to do?
Do crossword
mean-
puzzles, hang out.
I
gossip.
watch movies.
Yeah?
Or listen to
Yeah.
music or dance.
Yeah. I think that if it's a comedy, I can kind of hang out and everything.
Yeah.
But if it's a serious thing and I have to be emotional, then I kind of take things more seriously.
Right.
And kind of try to stay in that space because I think it's hard to get into that space.
Uh-huh.
For me, I'm easily distracted. So I find that if I have like a really emotional thing,
Yeah.
I did a TV series with Treat Williams.
Oh, I love him.
Oh God, I had such a crush on him. And I was the social worker in the hospital that harvested organs
Okay. That's not.
when people died.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, like I would be
Yeah.
the one like, could you give? Are we
Carrying
wrapping
the
it up?
cooler?
Oh yeah.
No, no,
yeah.
no, are you carrying the
I
cooler?
was, yeah, and so
Love it.
I go through all this thing to get this organ from somebody who died in a car accident, and it gets transplanted into somebody else, and it doesn't take, and everybody dies.
Oh.
And I had to be the one to kind of tell people this was my call, and it was like, one of those lip
Yeah.
trembly things, and
Did you ask Treat Williams like about movies or
No, he
hair?
seemed
or-
very distracted.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, no, he couldn't be bothered with me. No,
jeez.
no.
I hate that.
Yeah, no.
You-
He wasn't having me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
too bad.
Yeah, I did tell him that I was like, wow, boy, you.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, I've had a crush on you for a really long time.
Ah,
and he
maybe-
was flattered by that, but he was, yeah.
But he
yeah.
backed up
Yeah,
a
he
bit.
backed, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, another movie you were part of, just because it was a certain genre of movie playing by heart.
Oh yeah.
Remember that genre of movie where everyone...
like Love Actually. It's like, let's put everybody in this movie.
in the night, yeah.
I'm surprised you weren't in that movie.
No, well, they must have had somebody that was. I mean, it had Jon Stewart in it.
Yeah,
and
Jon Stewart,
Jenna Rollins, and-
Sean Connery, Angelina Jolie,
Yeah.
Ryan Philippe,
Yeah.
Dennis Quaid, Gillian Anderson, Charo. Like everybody was in this movie.
Gillian Anderson probably took my part. Was it 1998? Yeah, that was
1998 or something like that.
I was out in LA.
Yeah.
And I was being quirky, funny friends in 1990. Those were the year of the. I was like, I cannot play one more.
I was playing a lot of drag queens.
My quirk is.
Yes.
My quirk is, and then they changed it all around.
Yeah.
You know.
I got to spend the day with Dennis Quaid.
He did.
He looked like a movie star.
He did.
Yeah, he looked like a movie star. Everybody was in that movie.
That's right. Did you? So what did you pick up from that? Any tips?
Well, Dennis really took his time. There was another actress on the show who was since on a show on ABC called Revenge. I forget her name. She was in that movie with Daniel Day-Lewis, Last of the Mohicans. I wish I had the IMDb.
Madeline Stowe.
Madeline Stowe.
Yes.
So Madeline Stowe came in for her makeup test, and she came into the makeup room and no makeup at all. Still a very beautiful lady.
Yeah.
And then while I was shooting my scene at lunch, they were going to do her makeup test, and they brought her out into the light, and I was like, that's a movie star.
Yeah.
That's a movie star. That's what a movie star looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where are you gonna work? Burger King? Like she just, everything about her face was just perfect, and just looking at the angles. And that's when I realized that's really what it's about. What movie stardom is about. It's about, you gotta have somebody with a face that can be that big.
Right.
That people will want to look at.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Presence
Yeah.
and sad eyes.
Dennis Quaid had a big head, great big face, you know.
Did that make you veer then towards comedy, or ever feel like, well,
I just kind of felt like that's not for me. Movies have never been, and I've done a couple movies, but it's never been my goal. TV has always been, that was the kind of like the magic portal for me. That always seemed doable, and it still does.
I think it's because you're so funny, and also your own story. Like you know, I was once told, as I mentioned this in the book, that I personally was more interesting than any character I would play, and so sometimes it was difficult to put me in a movie because it looked,
She's too interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrible? But
Yeah.
it looks sort of like you're being restrained from being interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about you. Like, you just telling stories
Is interesting.
is fun, is more interesting than you coming in with a...
Right. It's
With
kind of hard to
organs.
cover up. It's kind of hard to camouflage who you are.
Yes.
But you've gotten to be in stuff where I felt like you've really broken out and played another character and lived a whole life.
Yeah,
Grace of My Heart is one of my favorite
Oh,
movies.
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's when I started doing more collaborations or working with people that are, very interesting, like Terry Zwigoff or
Right.
Gus Van Sant, where your personality can, bleed through. Some of the issues I've had, like I said, when you're the funny friend,
Right.
and you're just supposed to, come
Yeah.
in and support the lead.
Yeah.
Although I love doing it because I love movie stars.
Right. It's called a
too.
feeder tube role. I'm the feeder tube.
Is that what it's
Yeah.
called?
It's supposed to get you to the next situation or editorializing your current situation. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
pump them up. So
Right.
then, so you moved it. So you did the movies, then you moved into TV, and there's
Yeah.
a great quote which I thought it was so funny that you said, "L.A. That's where you go to give up."
Did I say that?
Yes, I love L.A. That's where you go to give up.
Just gonna give up. I'm sure I meant surrender.
Yeah.
Kind of just get swept up in the tide.
Does that mean like get a house and a pool? And
I guess
I was sort of
so.
seduced by.
Oh yeah.
Like, you do all these indie movies. You're like,
Sure.
great, critical acclaim.
Yeah.
I could use a house
Right.
with a pool
Yeah.
now.
I never got the house with a pool. I did get a house.
Uh-huh.
I got like the 4-season sitcom house.
Yes.
Which let me stick to something in my price range that I can keep going after this. They pulled the plug on this show,
And what was the first sitcom you got on?
Was the first one I did.
Was it some of...
I did a benefit this weekend that Marcia Gay Harden was at.
Yes.
And we were in, that was the very first sitcom that I got when I got to LA in 1998.
You did a sitcom with Marcia Gay Harden.
Yeah, CBS. I was playing her butler.
God,
Yeah, I was like her manservant. It was called Bayan Neville. It was kind of like she was a designer, and Danny Jacobson was the writer and producer. And we all rehearsed for a week, and then after a week, half the cast was fired. And then Marcia was pregnant, and they said, we're going to take a pregnant break, and then we never got back to it again. So I saw Marcia this weekend, and I said, we did a pilot together 20 years ago. And she said, you really do need to move on. There's more for you.
Oh, my God.
I was like, okay, Oscar winner.
Boy.
But that was my first, and then I did Some of My Best Friends, which,
Yeah.
again, like we aired 5 times in 4 different time slots, and I thought it was never going to work again. And then I got Half and Half, which ran for 4 seasons on UPN, which we used to call, it was all black comedies.
Yes.
So we used to call it the You People's Network.
Right.
And then I did Ugly Betty for 4 seasons, and then Desperate Housewives, and then I'm just floating from TV show to TV show.
Did you tell me about your experience on Desperate Housewives? That was really of its moment.
Yeah.
Mark Cherry.
Yeah, because Mark Cherry had written Some of My Best Friends.
Right.
And so he popped me into Desperate Housewives. I played the quirky best friend of Eva Longoria for a couple seasons.
Yeah.
And
Do you ever resent that? Like, 'cause I resented it sometimes. Like, they do 30 takes with me off camera.
right.
You know? Okay, we're ready for you.
I don't know. I think you have more self-esteem than I do.
Really? So you're just like, as long as I'm
just
here.
glad to be here. You know, to me that was fun because it was filmed on the Universe a lot, and I always took that tour as a kid. You know, that street was where the Munsters lived.
Yeah.
You know, Wisteria Lane is where the Munsters lived when I was a kid. It's where Leave It to Beaver was shot and all those. So I
amazing.
was so delighted to kind of be on that lot and everything.
Yeah.
And also, I'd never been on a show that was produced by out gay people before.
Yeah.
And the vibe was completely different. There were women were empowered. Women felt relaxed. It didn't have kind of like, because I've been on straight guy sets and straight guy vibes where it's exclusively that, and this was not that at all. It was so relaxed.
Would there ever be a Desperate Housewives reunion?
I don't know.
Wouldn't that be fun?
I don't know. I don't think nobody's speaking to anybody.
Is that how it all ends up? Like Sex in the City? Everyone's fighting.
Oh, wow. Can you believe it? It's just like nobody wants to make money. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to. It's that bad.
I don't know. Well, you could do. What if you do a drag version of?
I'm sure it already exists. I'm sure they're already doing that.
Of Sex and the City?
Yeah. I mean, it was such a drag show to begin with. Were you ever on that show?
I was not. I was not. I remember back in the day auditioning for it.
Yeah, me too.
And they told me I was too much like Sarah Jessica Parker, which is like not remotely true.
Oh, okay.
But,
all right.
You know, but they tell you these crazy things.
Yeah. I had a audition to play Stanford Blatch in the pilot.
Ooh.
And I was one of those things where I walked out and I was like, nailed it.
Right. I know.
Never heard from them again.
I know.
Yeah. And it was one of those calls where you went in and the casting director said, could you stick around for a second? Could you like just stay?
No.
And the rest of the actors are like,
Yeah.
And then, never heard from them again.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
I hate. I hate auditioning.
I don't mind it, but I'm not a good barometer. Every time I feel like I've nailed something, it's
Me too.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
And every time I feel like last year I was up for a pilot for NBC and I walked out of there and I was so convinced I bombed. I was on the Universe a lot. I walked to New York Street in the back lot, sat in a stoop on New York Street and started to cry. Because I was just so awful, and then it started to rain. It couldn't have been more cinematic, and I got it. So I don't know anything anymore.
Isn't that funny? So by the time you got it, does it even matter, or are you? Still
It mattered
get
to me,
excited?
sure. Yeah, super excited.
I feel like by the time the adrenaline has gone through me, I'm
You're
like,
done.
What? Oh, who cares? I got it. Yeah, that's what I'll tell everyone afterwards.
I guess I still get excited. I still get, I think part of me is like still a kid from San Francisco who watched the whole world through a television screen and wanted to get in and wanted to fit in and wanted to be a part of that. So it's not something I'm jaded about.
And so you're doing stand up. We're kind of running out of time. So
Okay. Well, I got to go pick up somebody from the airport at some point.
Oh.
Yeah.
I want to ask you 2 things.
Yes.
One is, and then please come back.
Yes.
But
Of course.
you're doing more and more. In preparation. I was watching a lot of your stand up.
I'm sorry.
Which I love. It's
All
so
right.
funny. And are you doing more and more stand-up?
I think so. Well, locally, it's a hard thing to do when you have a kid.
Yeah.
Because it's also a nighttime job. And it's
Exactly.
a road job. And it's not something I love. It's something I can do. And it's something that creates opportunities. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay.
I like it when it's in a theatrical.
I like storytelling. I like on cabaret.
Yeah.
I like a theatrical. I like taking people on a journey, because when you're at like the Laugh Factory or the Comedy Store, the really onus is on you to hit it every single second.
Right.
And that's not who I am.
Joke.
I'm a raconteur.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. That's why when we did the little reading and you read In the Key of Liza, you read it the best of
Thank you.
of anybody. I
Thank
felt
you.
like
well,
you
it was
really
the material. Let's be honest.
well. No, I just
I am
felt
but
like
a vessel.
I just felt like again you understood the idea
Yeah.
of the insanity of when you're young.
But that's because we're all that kid. I mean,
Yeah.
you captured that moment where you're just completely shameless.
Yeah.
I practiced this by singing along to the record, so of course
Right.
it's going to work out in real life.
I know.
Didn't even occur to you
No.
to rehearse with the sheet music with somebody else.
No.
Yeah, no.
And my mom was so cheap too. Like she didn't even want to buy me the sheet music.
Right.
It was like, can't you just bring the record?
Oh my God.
No, Mom.
Sheet music stores.
Yeah.
Remember the Colony on 49th Street and Broadway? You could buy all the sheet music to everything.
I know.
Yeah.
I used to I used to haunt that place. And again, it was funny. My first job was at the Brill Building. Everything is cyclical and
Yeah.
and some weird. You're like, have I created this because I've?
Is that Chime You or Me?
That was me.
Okay.
Sadly, that was me. That was my doorbell
Uh-oh.
song. Okay, the last thing I was going to talk about is your what movies are you showing your son?
Oh, what a
Zion.
good question.
Do you have go-to movies with him? You say he's 13 now.
He's 13, so he's kind of getting out of
The young,
the young kind of Marvel superhero thing.
right?
I remember The Force Awakens being very important to us as a family because John Boyega is in that movie, and he looks exactly like my son.
Uh-huh.
Like my son is like a 13-year-old version of John Boyega.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that it was very important for my son to have that experience where he saw a black protagonist
Yeah.
on screen now. And I feel that, and then to a certain degree also with Black Panther as well.
Yeah.
At that kind of seeing black characters with power, with agency, and was very important because all of the stuff I had been taking him before was all like a lot of like really dreary kind of, where black people were victimized,
Right.
Selma, the civil rights, which is an important part of the story,
Uh-huh.
but to see black people who are heroic
Yes.
and have power
Right.
and have beauty is just as important to me.
Now, what about a movie like Stir Crazy or something with
You haven't seen that with
You
him
know,
yet.
like,
yeah.
which it was part of my sort of bread and butter. Growing
Richard
up.
Pryor.
I just thought
yeah.
like Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder in that
so
movie.
funny. Yeah, I remember
as a
Silver
combo.
Streak.
Yeah.
Yeah, Silver Streak. Richard Pryor, that's a really, really good idea. I think
Yeah.
there was one Richard Pryor movie he did with Cicely Tyson where she's running like a orphanage or something and he's the bus driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember that
I
one?
do.
I have to look that one up.
I went into like a real, with my comedy of Groucho Marx and then I discovered like Richard Pryor and all those Richard Pryor movies.
Yeah. All the concert films. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
And
so
even
amazing.
Lady Sings the Blues, even though it was
Beautiful in that.
sophisticated.
He's beautiful in that. And Diana Ross is amazing in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does he like musicals at all, or
Not really.
Really?
No.
Is that it? Is
No.
that
No,
have you
he's-
failed? And
I have failed. I have failed. And I tried. Listen, I tried. He's a heterosexual man. It's too late. I took him to the Sound of Music sing-along. I bought him gender non-conforming toys. Nothing.
what about like parent-teacher meetings? Are you incredibly popular? Do they love?
No.
Really?
No.
Oh
I'm
my
so
God!
ordinary.
Everything you're like the fun parent.
No, I'm grouchy at school.
Really?
Yeah, because it's not good news. You're at school to find out what's my kid up to, what's he doing wrong, what's he,
Yes.
yeah.
So you're on are you doing the pilot or you already did it?
I already did it. It already didn't get picked up.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that was-
horrible. Yeah, it was Tina Fey. There's no such thing as a sure thing in this business.
What?
Tina Fey produced it, and Robert Carlyle. That was the team from Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah.
And the writers from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Such a funny script. It was so great. I did a character. I based her on Faye Dunaway in Network. It was a publicist who never stopped talking.
Yeah.
Never took a breath. Just was always pitching. You remember that scene where she's just like pitching like the news
Yes.
and everything? Yeah. And so I just based it on that. I said never breathe. Just never breathed. Yeah.
Well,
Didn't get
it'll
picked
be,
up.
you'll see, it'll lead
Oh,
to
well.
something.
It always does.
All right, Alec.
All roads lead back to Illeana Douglas.
That's right. Back in the 80s in a hotel room with Quaaludes.
Quaaludes, getting paid in Quaaludes. Look for Alec on his comedy special on Vimeo, Baby Daddy, and
Yes.
you can follow him on
Yes.
Twitter at Alec Mapa, AlecMapa.
Very good.
His website is alecmapa.com.
You can follow me on
Thank
Instagram,
you.
too, at
Oh,
Alec
and
Mapa.
Instagram
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah.
And you can buy Illeana's book, I Blame Dennis Hopper.
right.
It's out in paperback
It's
now.
so
you should
good.
buy it.
Oh,
You should
thank
read
you.
it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Also, like us on Facebook and check out our website, illeanaspodcast.com.
And I'm going to add one thing because I forgot to get it
All right.
to it in my research of you. When you grew up in the 70s, I had the same thing with a folk mass because my mom is Catholic.
Yeah.
Folk mass.
Folk mass.
But
Horrible.
the Catholic Church was like in Connecticut was like, really? Are you really going to make me go?
Yeah.
But like all my friends went to the fun congregational hippie folk mass.
Folk mass.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did all that, you know.
Godspell.
Michael, yeah, the boat ashore.
Day by day.
Pilgrim Fellowship. We used to go PF camp wherever.
It's so corny.
I know,
It was
it's-
so corny.
I know, but I loved it. It was like growing up in the 50s or something.
Yeah.
We had wonderful childhoods.
We did.
Okay, as I always say, everyone's life is like a movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And today our movie has starred Alec Mapa. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's good
It's
to
been
be
an
here.
absolute blast.
Oh, good.
Please come back
Completely
anytime.
sober the entire time.
Damn it.
Next time it'll be
first.
different.
I'm taking up that producer on that
Woo-hoo,
bottle of
on
rosé.
the bottle of rosé.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, everyone. Have a great
See you next
day.
time, everybody. Thanks.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.